This will be a conceptual contrast analysis of the articles White Shame, Responsibility, and Moral Emotions by Daniel Haggerty, an essay that illustrates the empirical difference between guilt and shame in our society, and the essay Justice, Work, and the Ghetto Poor by Tommy Shelby, a piece that outlines the dynamic between ghetto black population and the work environment in America. Haggerty describes the difference between guilt and shame in general terms, explaining that guilt deals with an act that is the focus of critique, whereas shame is more an examination of one's own self and their character, as well as their moral standing. When one feels guilt, one fears the reprimanding of a violating act and seeks to free themselves from blame. With shame, one feels a failure in self and fears abandonment from their society. The distinction between these often interchanged feelings bears a significant sociological scope through which to look at racism in America. In Shelby's essay, he examines how the impoverished people in urban ghettos are stuck in a position in which they are looked at as choosing to be jobless or unemployed as opposed to being forced. The new work rate regime views this cohort as being lazy and in need of being motivated to work through incentive clauses like placing time limits and work requirements for benefiting eligibility. It seems as though those who are controlling the social work programs are operating under certain assumptions about the ghetto poor. When looking at both Haggerty and Shelby's content, one can draw certain parallels between them. For instance, although Shelby does mention that two largely respected black leaders at the turn of the century, Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois, both advocated that the impoverished black may be avoiding going to work, it does seem that there is an overwhelming white presence that helped perpetuate that misconception and eventually passes laws that kept this vicious cycle going. Considering this, one starts to notice an innate white attitude towards those impoverished blacks. It would be safe to say that due to this attitude imbued into the social and emotional infrastructure of white society, most white people could be considered as having an innate shame when it comes to the matters of social tact. There is a feeling of corruption and, or as Haggerty described it, a tainted nature of whiteness in America. Shelby's essay helps to illustrate reasons why this white shame can be felt.